Hey guys, so welcome back. This is part 2 of this Ford AM FM stereo quadraphonic 8-track car player. This was sent in by a fella who said they hooked it up to power and nothing happened except for the bulb coming on behind the dial. So in part 1 what we did is we went through and looked at the power circuit and found out that the on-off switch had a problem. So we worked on that and got the power to come on, and then we hooked the thing up for a power up for the system to see how it performed. The AM radio and the FM stereo seem to be working pretty well. So then what we did is popped in an 8-track tape and nothing. We looked at it carefully. It looks like the motor is not turning. So we went through and looked at the circuitry to get power to the motor. We found some switches to be cleaned. We went through and cleaned those switches up and then checked for voltage continuity through there. And it looks like voltage is getting to the motor, but still nothing's happening. So in this part, what we're going to do is pick up where we left off, which is when we're starting to look a lot more closely at the motor. So hang on, let's get started in part 2. Okay, to gain access to the top of the motor area, I've released the tuner board. Did that by just releasing this spring clip here, sliding out from these places here, and then disconnecting these 3 Molex connectors. They have these extended pins on them for polarization, so I know how they go back in. Okay, so that's the tuner board. You can see the IF cans. Take good care of this. Okay, so now you can see down on top of the motor here. I got a little better look at what I'm dealing with. So the motor connections come off here. I've got a blue lead here, and the red lead comes from over here, and I see the 2 power resistors in here. So I may see if there's a way that I can just run the power directly to the motor and make it turn. We'll see. I'm going to get my my glasses on and really get in here and inspect it. I'm not going to rush what I'm doing here. See what I can do. The other thing is the fellow would like me to rewire these wires here that are coming off to go to the speakers and plug into the wiring harness on the car. And in order to do that, I'd have to come in here, and there's solder connections right in here. I'm trying to point right here, but if I put the light on it, you can't see it. So they're soldered directly to this audio board here. So I'm going to have to pull that board out in order to solder those. I'm going to cross that bridge a little later, but we can see all the heat sinks in the back. Anyway, one thing at a time. Let's see if we can get the motor to work. Okay, I'm going to tell you what's going on here that I've been able to figure out. I know you can't see everything here, but things to notice. Here's the motor. You've got 2 wires coming out of the motor, red and blue. Blue goes to ground. Okay, and you see that on the schematic here. 1 lead goes to ground, and I verified that's blue. So blue goes to ground. The other side of this comes up, and it'll go through a 1-watt resistor. It's 1 ohm. Okay, that 1 watt, 1 ohm resistor is this guy right here. It says 1 ohm right there. Okay, so this red lead comes up here, goes in this 1 watt resistor and comes through and comes out to this point back here. Okay, and that puts you here. Then it picks up C121. That's this silver encased capacitor right here that then goes to ground. It joins up with this ground right here where blue comes in. Okay, so those 2 are connected, go through this way. Now from the other side of the 1 ohm resistor, we then go into another power resistor. It's 2 watt, 2.7 ohms. I can see it down here. There's another big white power resistor down here, and I can read it says 2.7. Okay, so that's the 2.7. So as I come through the 2.7, then I get to this point here, which gets me to M. So I was saying here I come across, go through the 2.7, and that gets me to M. If I come up this way, this just goes to the detenting solenoid. It doesn't go anywhere else in circuitry. If I come back this way, okay, so I'm going to chase M. I know from before that M comes from here. It's part of the switch that then brings power from VA, V sub A. V sub A is here. V sub A comes right off of the switch. Now, since this is all isolated right here, I'm thinking I don't really need to switch the radio circuitry. I just want to turn the motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig up to where I'm going to bring power from this point here. I'm going to bypass the switch up there, and I'm just going to bring it and hook it up right over here. And I'm just going to touch it and see if that'll make the motor turn. I may do it with an ammeter to see if I can get any current through it, but I'm just going to touch it to see if it'll go. And then that'll tell us what the motor's bad or not. Okay, I'll get set up for that. It just occurred to me, I don't really need to turn the radio on. I can just bring power coming in. It's got filtration, but this is a regulated supply. I'm not too worried about it. It's just going to the motor. I'm going to bring it in here, and then it goes straight here. I'm just going to bring power supply voltage straight from here to here. I'll use current limiting, and we'll see if we can get it to budge a little bit and move. It's not affecting anything else. I'll just see if I can get it to work by itself. Okay, I'm on M. There. Now the ground connection I'm going to do with this, it's right next to it. See, this way I don't have to worry about the fact that the tuner board's out and all that other stuff. I'm just bypassing everything. Alright, so now voltage is turned all the way down. Here's power in. I'm going to be touching that. Here is ground. Here, I'll bring ground in. Here. So there's ground. Alright, back you up a little bit. We need to get to where we can see whether the motor's trying to turn. So what I'm going to do is turn this all up on its side. And I'll verify I don't have any problems with what's going on here. Okay. Make sure I don't have anything moved around. Alright, we're going to see if we get motion here. And to make it a little bit easier for you to see, I'm going to put a red mark here, maybe you can see. I'll put another one here. Okay, so should I go up slow? I guess I should. In that case, I'll go ahead and hook up power lines, like so. Okay, voltage all the way down, power coming up. Back up so you can see. There, you can see the voltage here. Okay. One volt, 2 volts, 3 volts, 6 volts, 7. I'm drawing an amp. Physically turn the motor a little bit. Didn't like seeing the power come up like that, the current come up like that. I'm pulling power. That may be okay. Let me just make sure I don't have a short somewhere. I think I'm going to slip the belt off. Oh, that motor doesn't want to turn. That motor's tight. Kind of put some current to it. Seems like that ought to freewheel. Okay, it just busted loose a little bit. It's got some jamming in it. There's something wrong with it. It wants to turn, it's jamming. It's turning now, can you see it? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of fine oil on the ends and see if that'll help a little bit. I've got a small applicator. The problem is I can't, let's just see. I can just get to this one point. This is like oiling that clock. You just want to put a little bit and let the capillary action take it in, suck it into the slot. Okay, let's let it run. Jammed. Yeah, motor's dead, guys. Hear it dragging? It's hitting inside or something. The motor's bad. Now it's willing to turn. I don't know if we can trust it. Right? It doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, as I said, this thing's jamming. I can try to remove the motor and see if we can do something with it. I'll do that now. Okay, I turned this thing and got it slightly lubricated, and I've got it working. It spins. See if I can make them work on here. No, you can't see it. Anyway, so it's turning, but it's noisy. So I think the bearings are shot on it. I think I found a source for getting another one of these replacement. It's getting warm. I've got it running at 13.5 volts. It's been running for a few minutes, maybe about 20 minutes or so. But I think I'm going to recommend we replace this thing. Okay, so I put the motor back in. It looks like I may have found a replacement at a surplus place that has the exact same part number. So great. I've ordered that. It'll take probably several days to get in. So I thought, well, let me just put this one back in if it'll run, and then I can test out the 8-track circuitry to see if it's working. Before I close this back up, I'm going to have to open it when I get the new motor anyway. But in there you can see the audio board. I've tested all of the electrolytics that you see in there with an ESR meter. Yes, capacitor wizard. And they all seem to test okay. And I've tested the ones up here on the bottom of the tuner board as well, and I've tested those there where the power line comes in. So far they all seem to be doing okay. So I'm going to just leave them alone. So let me button this thing back up and we'll see if the 8-track circuitry works okay, even though the motor might be really loud. And I'm going to put this shield back over the switch stack here. Okay, so I've got the thing turned back up, got the motor in, took the belt off so the motor can free spin. It didn't work right away, so what I had to do is go back in and give those switches that are down in there another cleaning. And I've definitely verified, there they are down there, Definitely verified they work now. So I'm going to leave the belt off, and let's just see if the motor will spin. So let's see, I have the radio on. I'm not going to put a tape in because, like I say, you don't run the tapes sideways or upside down. It'll mess them up. But I can put this rod in and activate that switch. So that's what I'm going to do. And we want to see if that motor moves. Yep, and it's moving. Let me turn the mic around so you can hear it. Okay, I got it turned around. Got it turned around so you can see the motor now. Yeah, now the motor's running, you can hear it. Okay, I'm going to put the belt on, and then we'll see if it'll play a tape. This is moving freely, so I know the capstan is moving freely. In fact, I need to clean the capstan before I put that tape in there. It's pretty dirty, so I'll do that first. Okay, I've got the belt back on. Let's see how we do. I've cleaned the capstan. Okay. Here's what's left of the capstan dirt. So, yeah, let's just say it needed to be cleaned. That's just the capstan. Playback head was also cleaned. It wasn't too bad, but it had been cleaned. But the capstan looked like it's been a while. Anyway, let's get the cell set back up, and we'll see if we get anything out of the tape deck now. Okay, let's see what we got.
Here's Calvin Coolidge on Plymouth Notch.
Okay, so we got AM playing.
The neighborhood around the Notch was made up with people of exemplary.
See how it goes.
Their streets was clean and their lives were above reproach.
I hear the motor going. Just did a program change. Okay, the problem we have is that it doesn't index from track to track. So there's a procedure for adjusting this in the manual, and it says what you should do is turn this down to 11 volts going in, because it wants to be able to shift at 11 volts. So I have a regulated power supply. We'll turn this down to 11 volts. Okay. So that's 11 volts. So now so it's not shifting. So what it says is use a blade screwdriver and turn the adjustment screw, which is here, see that? Yeah, into the coil in quarter turn increments while at the same time indexing the player. Continue to index while turning the screw until the solenoid just fails to index the tape head. So that's assuming you have it to where it does shift, because it wants you to go until it just fails to shift. So it's already failing to shift. Then it says back the screw out until the head just indexes properly. So what we're going to do is back out. Alright. Until it fails to index, until it finally indexes. Okay, it didn't shift. Still not shifting. I think you need to really mash the switch. I'm going to see if I can find that switch and clean it before I do much more adjustments on that. Hey guys, so welcome back. Well, it's been about 10 days since we last looked at this. I had to clear this off and work on some other things, but now I've got some things in the mail that we now get back into this project. And here it is. In fact, I got two of them. So we have replacement motors for the 8-track drive belt, and we'll give them a try and see how they do and how they sound. But they seem to move pretty smooth. These look like the new old stock to me. So we'll give those a try. The other thing we have gotten in the mail is a Guess Who number 10. It looks like it's been in a car like they normally did. This is the way all the labels looked after a while. And you'll see a difference between this, and that is the slot on the top. That's right. This is a quadraphonic tape instead of a stereo tape. That's that location we were talking about earlier where the unit can detect whether this is 8-track or stereo. Does that say Q8? Alright, so be interesting to give this a try. Forgive my wiring mess, but we got to have 8 connections here for 4 speakers, each with positive and negative, a common for each of them, and then we've got a power and a light power line for the dial. So we've got that many connections we have to have hooked up to get this thing fully operational. Okay, so we've got this hooked up, we've got this isolated, going through a dim bulb. Here's the power connections, we've got a fuse, turn the voltage all the way down, turn it up, and we'll go on up to, let me put in a few volts, put in 6. Heard sound on the speakers. Let's see what mode are we in. We're in AM mode. I don't have an antenna hooked up. Okay, we got the antenna hooked up.
When I think 5 of the top 7.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the stereo 8-track so we can compare them. Motor's turning. Now I'm going to try to keep the stereo, the music down so you don't get copyrights. Listen guys, if you get to where you see that I've got silence, it's because I had a copyright problem and I had to cut the sound out. So you'll know now, if you hear silence, that's what's going on.
That data is encouraging.
Okay, let's try the quad.
But I'm going to pick on the men for a minute.
Okay, let's get that motor changed out. Okay, we got this motor hooked up here. Let's see how this one does. That seems to be doing pretty well. Okay, let's try the next one. Well, they both seem to be doing just fine. I don't think it matters which one I use. Let's grab one and put it in. I know I could desolder these connections, but I'm going to J-hook it instead, so I'm not putting any heat on those connections. Alright, so here's the old one. I'm going to tag that. And while I'm in here, I want to see about taking a look at the program change mechanism, which is right in there. Right in there. I'm going to see if I can get in there and lubricate some of the components in there. I'm going to have to get my head in there, so I'll bring you back when I've done something, let you know what I found. Okay, I'm going to try to show the mechanism for the program change. So here is the end of the solenoid that is used to power the program change. This slug, focus, this slug is adjustable, and you adjust it according to the instructions inside the manual at various voltages. And what it does is it increases or decreases the strength of the pulse. And I could be turning this thing up to higher voltages and all of that, but we don't want to over stress this. Let's find out why it's hard to turn. So in the manual it does talk about lubricating the cam that's in here. Right now we've got the motor out, and the motor would normally go right here. We can see that mechanism. So what I'm going to do is point out something down here. When this solenoid, which is here, pulses, it pulls back on the armature. And there's a pin here so you can actually see it. So this thing will move like that. And you may have heard it click when I did that. That's actually the mechanism to make it move. So that's a manual way that we can shift this. All right. So now if we go in to here, I want to show you the mechanism. You should be able to see it in there. And I'm going to manually operate it and see if you can see that in there moving. See how it's dragging? Okay, let me see if I can show you the way the thing pulses first. This is difficult to do. So there's a rod in there shifting back and forth. And there's so much drag in here, the spring doesn't really want to cooperate. Here. Now, if you look inside of there, there's a pull mechanism. See if we can get you some better light. I don't think I'm going to be able to. No, I'm not going to be able to. So that's the mechanism that makes the thing move from program 1 to program 2 to program 3 and so forth. Now there's a lower, I'm pointing my thumb to it right here, I'll circle it in the video. That is a cam that I believe a micro switch is riding on, and there's the micro switch right there. So as this thing turns, that thing is operating that switch. I don't think it needs to be lubricated, but up above there's a pawl mechanism that latches and releases. I think that needs lubrication. It's in the manual that it can be lubricated. I'm going to use some thin silicone grease. There's a screw up there at the top that I can't get out unless I remove the audio board, which I'm not really wanting to do. And then there's a pivot down below that's got a spring around it. I'm going to try to drop a little bit of oil on that. And we'll see if this thing will loosen up some. And then once we get it loosened up, then I'll go in and make the adjustments on the strength of the solenoid at different voltages, like the manual says. Okay, so that's the plan. Okay. Sorry, but I had to be able to see what I was doing. It's not easy to get in there and see. So, I think we got some better performance now. What do you think? You can see? I can't tell if you can see. Hold on. We're looking right in there. Now, in case you're thinking, I put a lot of grease in there. I've put very little. You notice it's snapping back on its own very quickly and not hanging and dragging back. I think that's a big improvement. Alright, now I'm going to put the new motor in. Okay, the new motor is in, and there's the connections in here. Got the wires dressed down. This is the antenna connection that goes to the receiver board, so it just plugs in when I bring it back down in there. I think we've got this all pretty well taken care of. I'm going to now re-clean the switch again, make sure it was still working fine. Since it's metal to metal contact, I put deoxit red on that. That should keep it clean. And I think I'll put it back together again, put it through its paces, make sure the motor works. And then if that still works okay, then we'll look at the adjusting the solenoid. So let me get this package back. Okay, let's see if the motor works. To make it easier for you to see at home, I'll put a little flag on it. Okay, I'm going to turn on the power. I've got everything hooked up right. Yeah. Voltage. Yep. Voltage down. Power up. Okay. Power is on. Now I need to reach in there and flip the switch as if there's a tape in there. Let me find something to push with. I'm going to push with this rod again. Reach in there and flip that switch. If I can find it. There it goes. Alright, let me get the belt on it. Okay. There we go. Runs good. Okay, let's get this thing bottom back on this and we'll flip it around and see how she does. Okay, let's see how it does. Okay, let's put the power back to it. Switch on. We've got sound.
Willing to put his on the law by endorsing these folks. It must be damn good.
They really are. They do a great job.
Call America's Choice Windows.
Okay, let's see how we do here.
713-482-8902.
Hopefully that was the end of a song. Yep.
Take it off of my shoulders. Away from my soul, wake up, things. Don't wanna drink.
In 8-track you only got 2 programs. So let's go back to stereo. We should be able to get 4 programs. Okay, I'm going to turn it down so I don't get into copyright issues. I'm going to play this for a while, make sure it's all doing okay, and then I'll bring you back when I start adjusting this. Okay, so the instructions on the adjustment of the solenoid is that you thread it in quarter turn increments until it just fails to shift, and then you back it up until it does shift normally, and then you back it out another quarter turn. You do that at 11 volts, and then you check that again at 16. So I've already completed that. I'm just going to do it real quickly so I don't have issues with the music. So here we go. Okay, so it shifts fine at 11. Now I'm going to take this up to 16. That's the motor you hear running, but the cover's not on the bottom. Okay, we're at 16 volts. Okay, I'm going to put the cover back on this, and I think this thing is about done. Okay, so one of the last things I want to do here is I want to go in there and address the pinch roller setup that's used to make sure that the tape is in all the way and held all the way back. There is a place on the tape case that has this slot. And so as this gets pushed in there, there's a wheel that in this unit that'll kick in and push this forward to make sure it's held flat and in all the way against the tape head and holding it straight. So I'll show that now. And it's located over here on the side. So what you see there is you see like a spring steel looking lever or piece, and as it gets pushed in, there's a spring-loaded what am I trying to say? Kind of a spring-loaded trip mechanism that makes this thing go snap acting, and that makes that wheel pop out. And then once that wheel pops out, then you have to kind of pull it back to get it to snap back. I'll see if I can demonstrate it here without getting pinched. So I'm going to go in there and push on that piece of spring steel, I guess, if I can do it. Okay, there you saw it snapped in, and now you can see the wheel right here that pops into that spot. So what I did was, let me zoom you in a little bit more. So what I did was I got in there and I did some lubrication of the hinge points of that to make that a lot easier. And now it does the snapping into position quite well now. So you can get focus here a little bit. There we go. So there's some hinge points that you can access, and I just went in there with a small applicator and put some more of that silicone grease in there, and the thing really loosened up. And then when you pull the tape out, that will be popped back into place. And now it's back in position. And so now it grabs the tape and pops it into position quite well now. You hear it really pop in. And it's smooth. Okay guys, let's go through the operation of this thing. I think we've done all the repairs that are going to be necessary for this. One of the last things that we did is we went in there and adjusted the detent mechanism. I've cleaned all the components inside, done the lubrication. I went through and did a lot of cleaning of the volume control, the tone control, the balance control, and the fader control, and got all those things pretty well taken care of. I think that seemed to have helped with any remaining issues with distortion there seemed to be, because you could hear it a little bit when I was moving things around. A lot of the experimentation I did necessarily was done off camera because of all this music and stuff that's playing. It's just, it's such a problem dealing with a copyright issue on YouTube. But anyway, we can go through the rest of this. I'll go through the AM, and wherever I can find commercials or talk, I'll pause for a bit so we can hear it. And then we'll go through and listen to some tapes. I'll have to go very quickly through those because it'll all be copyright stuff, but just to show that they play and that the program advance works. And I wish I could really demonstrate for you the way the quadraphonic works. It is really a kick to hear. I mean, you would hear things in music that you've heard in the past, wondering that seemed like a bit of music that was added for no real reason, but then you find out that in the quad it's doing circles or it's bouncing around in different locations to demonstrate the quad, and it's really kind of a cool throwback to listen to. It's been so long, but anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and get going on this. I've got it on AM right now. Turn it on. I'll just do a quick scan through.
Okay, and so then it's going to be between, are they going to keep 3 or are they going to keep 6?
That's going to be February 15th through the 18th, 2023.
So this is volume control.
And that's our wealth of passive income.
You can hear it smooth. This is tone control.
I don't think the passes are out yet, but obviously you can start booking the hotel rooms, start the planning. Thousands of investors. So if you want to meet,
so that's working well.
James and Kimberly,
I don't think there's any way to demonstrate for you the balance and fade, but I'll see if I can do it. This will be balance. That's to the left.
Looking at your deals done, I do see some passive investors.
That's to the right. It's hard to do without changing the station by accident.
Just a moment, but when we come back, what I want to do is hear a little bit about the dual path of being.
So it's back in the middle, and this will be fade towards us, which is rear, and that's forward, which is away to us. So that's all working. Okay, finish the quick scan. Most of my stations are down here anyway.
Air aviation.
So that anyone really separates.
So, takingvegas.com, we're doing a lot.
And we were always asked.
Okay, we had some interference from some electronic component somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to switch to FM now. You'll watch the multiplex light come on. Like I say, we have to move quickly through music.
Touch, right?
Yeah, just in the right place.
Yeah.
In the right time. Yeah. And I think here, since you mentioned that, a lot of fathers of teenage daughters will pull back.
Y muchas personas me... Sorry, but I'm scared. Rituales de yoga, Rubén ahora es.
Metrics used report Comcast analysis of mobile Wi-Fi and
Although we both laugh.
get the supersonic bundle. Food,
Not bad, and it's enjoyable, and the tunes are great, and everything.
Gracias por ese mensajito.
6 through September 10th. More at IKEA-USA.com.
Okay, let's go to 8 tracks. I want to tune this off of the station so it's a little quieter when I change the tapes. Okay, here we go. Oops.
If you don't understand him, I keep looking for a thing. One night of love don't make her.
Another stereo tape.
We shall be free in the years to come.
Another stereo tape. I keep grabbing this knob for some reason for volume. Okay, now we have a quad tape. This tape drags a little bit. There's some distortion in some areas. It's due to the tape. You can see the condition. It's been in a hot car. So anyway. All right, well, there you go. Now, a lot of y'all might be saying, well, why don't you go ahead and recap this and all that? Well, for a couple of reasons. One of them is that it seems to be playing okay. You could recap a radio that's 50 years old or 5 years old, you know, almost. I did go through and check the ESR. The ESR was fine on these Nichicon caps that were in here, so they don't seem to need to be changed. You could do it just because you say, well, why don't you restore this while you've got it out of the car and so forth. Well, maybe so. And that's a decision that needs to be made. There's some risk in taking that audio board out because of the way that the heat sinks seem to be set in there. So there's a little bit of concern that if we damage those op amps that are in there, you know, none of the chips in here are going to be really available. You know, we have to find another unit to sacrifice the components out of. So it's kind of like, why not wait until something goes wrong to do that? So anyway, the idea was not to really go through and do a full restoration of this thing, just get this thing working again and make it serviceable, and that's what we've got. So, hey guys, really appreciate y'all stopping in and watching this kind of unusual video for me. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.